I am beyond excited to be here with Kathleen Griffith to talk about her book, Build Like a Woman. I have known Kathleen for years. I was at Entrepreneur Magazine and was responsible for starting Women Entrepreneur. And that's where I met Kathleen because we really wanted to bring in her Build Like a Woman framework, which was a blueprint for breaking into business and breaking through life. And after I left Entrepreneur, I have watched Kathleen for years, seeing her grow this brand, and she has definitely grown Build Like a Woman. Now, this global platform includes a dinner series, a video series that highlights the work of exceptional builders like Eva Longoria, Jessica Alba, and Ariana Huffington, and now includes this book that we all hold in our hands. It has been selected as a next big idea book club pick, included in the most important nonfiction book of the year. I know, not a big deal, right? And that was curated by Malcolm Gladwell and Adam Grant. So, and incredible. And it keeps going. Well, we're here to talk about her book, Build Like a Woman. Kathleen has done so much more. She is an award-winning serial entrepreneur, business strategist, producer, and TV personality. She consults for Fortune 500 brands such as Nike and Verizon, directing more than $500 million in marketing dollars and generating more than $1 billion in profits for her clients.
It was a tough job, but someone
She is also named one of the top disruptors in media by Adweek, making her a sought-after speaker for advising and motivating entrepreneurs to start or refine their companies and architect the life of their dreams. And now we can add author to her long list of accomplishments as she continues to carry on her mission of furthering the next generation of women entrepreneurs. So I'm so excited. Welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Thank you all. So I did just tick off a lot of accomplishments, but as you know, with a bio or an intro, it sounds sometimes simpler or easier said than done. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story, how you made your way from corporate to building Grace & Co. and now ultimately launching Build.
Well, the beginning was all very unglamorous and did not look like this, that's for sure. I did everything I thought I was supposed to do. I went and worked in corporate, and I was grabbing a pizza with a friend one night. I was working 80-hour weeks, most nights and weekends, and they looked at me, and I had truffle sauce smeared all over my face. It was this like crazy pizza, and they said, you don't look great. Like, are you okay? And I walked home that night. It's one of those New York City nights where the lights are reflecting off the pavement. It's just such a magical night. And I thought, if I'm this successful doing what I don't love, imagine how successful I'd be doing what I do love. And so I left. I left my corporate job. I started my first business in consulting, working with big brands. And we've had quite a ride. And so Build was really born out of the desire to help other women build businesses. I mean, I think once you have a taste of this, once you have a taste of success and what this life looks like, you want it for anyone else who wants it.
And yes, you have done quite that. So let's talk about the book. What I love about this book and what I think sets it apart from other business books is that you put it into two main chunks. You have a mindset and you have the skill set, and both have chapters, tons of tips, and tons of tools. And I just wanted to get into your head why you decided to make it into two chunks, and also why you decided to start with the mindset.
Most business books and business educations in general are just those skill sets that you need, right? Financials, pitching, sales, marketing, strategy, and that's all really important. You've got to get those fundamentals. But I found after working with some of the greatest performance coaches, business coaches, wealth coaches, that your mindset becomes the greatest X factor for your success. And that has these exponential benefits to your business. So that's why I wanted to start the book that way. I think you guys are going to dig that one.
It is really, really, really good. And one thing, and this was a question that I think we could spend a lot of time on, but I really appreciate the candor in which you talk about the realistic terrain for women in the workforce, if it's entrepreneurs, if it's executive, if it's operators. While times are changing, it can still feel like an uphill battle. And you write in your book, you're going to get hit hard when you start to build anything that threatens others' land, resources, but most of all, their power. Most people only pay lip service to liking a strong, independent woman, a woman of contradictions, with opinions, who refuses to stay in her box or on her pedestal is a threat to the status quo. And I could not agree with you more. But can you share a little bit about a time when you have experienced hostility, when you tried to do something outside the norm, and how you navigated that situation?
One example that springs to mind was actually when I was still at corporate and I was trying to negotiate a raise, which I'm sure can be, it's pretty familiar for most of the folks in this room. And I prepared for it and I walked in, and the reaction that I got from my manager was borderline hostile. It became an interrogation where I had to justify why I was asking for this raise, and he said, "You're single, you don't have a family, what do you need this extra money for?" And that made me rageful, of course, but it left me thinking that I never wanted to be in that sort of position again. And so there are a lot of great negotiation tactics in the book, so we don't have to be.
And it's a little sad that you had to have that conversation, because you also talked in your book about your mom and being an editor, and also having to have difficult conversations even back then. So sometimes, things are still not changing. They're progressing, but not changing at the rate that we would like them to change.
Yeah, that's right.
You write about the feminine traits that traditionally have not been celebrated in leadership, but are in fact our superpowers. Tell us more what you mean about it, and what was a moment in your career where you saw the power of your feminine leadership?
So I'll just start this by saying feminine traits are not necessarily gender specific to women. It's a series of traits. So everything from inclusivity to collaboration to cooperation to authenticity. And when my team and I dove into the data, it was just really encouraging, because what we found is that these attributes, which we're told aren't necessarily all that great, actually make for the most successful companies. Companies with leaders that embody these traits are 10% more high performing. So I think it's something for all of us to kind of embrace and rally around. I like that style of leadership more anyway.
Yes. This one's a long question, but it's a very important question. You talk about breakdowns, calling them the big B and little b, and how they can lead to breakthroughs. You write, the big Bs are those traumatic events that blindside you out of nowhere. It's the divorce, it's someone cheating, it's losing your job, it's these big, horrific life events that you don't anticipate. Little B breakdowns are like the whispers. They're small, gnawing feelings that something is off or wrong, not quite right. It's not finding your relationship fulfilling. It's not feeling like you can be yourself at work. It's guilt and slowing down. It's promoting only a fake facade on social media. It's when we speak, we kind of lose our voice. And it's jumping from company to company, but no matter where we go, we're feeling off. Has anyone happened to feel? Can I get a raise of hands? If anyone has felt some of them.
Yeah. Big B, little B, all the above.
All the B's.
All the B's.
But I think it's powerful that we can raise our hands and that we're still here and we've gone through that. And Kathleen, one of the things that I really loved about your book was how honest you were. And you talked about a capital B, a huge breakdown that took you to South Africa. Can you share this story, the 3-step framework you used to work through it, and how it can help all of us?
So, without going too deep, but I was supposed to get married 3 weeks after my wedding. I called it off for very good reason. And I took my mama on my honeymoon to South Africa. And that's what you call a baby breakdown. But what was so incredible was in the midst of it, I realized I'd kind of become dependent on this other person, which was completely on me. And I really wanted at that point to take the reins of my own life, start my own business, and really just become a self-made person. I was very dependent, up until that point. And so I think the most important thing to do is when you are in the midst of a breakdown, because they happen, they're bound to happen if you're living a big life and chasing things down, is to just identify that you're having one. My team and I talk about it all the time, and even with clients sometimes we'll celebrate like, I'm in the middle of a breakdown, there's like the big things with a little piece of what's happening. And so just identify it. That's acknowledge you're having one, identify the breakdown and what it is, and then declare that you're going to move forward and build something new. The second you are in the midst of building something new, the most magical thing happens because you're moving out of a breakdown into a breakthrough. So the sooner you can get into a state of action, the more that feeling's going to dissipate.
Yeah. And I love when you said, you grow into who you are meant to become as you fix things and keep building. What we make ultimately makes us.
Remember that?
You did write that. You talk about the power of personal amplification, writing, the point is to design a life that is a total reflection of you, a near carbon copy of everything you think, feel, and desire. Not what another goddamn person on this planet wants or thinks. Just you. It's pretty powerful. How do you work with women to make them align with their true amplified state?
At any given time, you need to ask yourself one and two questions. Am I building my own dream or am I building someone else's? Because you're doing one or the other at any moment. And so that provocation and the question that needs to happen there is asking yourself, what do I want? Like, what do I want? Not what does Aunt Sally want? What does my husband or my kids or the neighbor down the block want for me? Like, what do I want for my life? And that's a deeply personal question that needs to be answered and confronted. And so once you're able to do that, I think you're able to think about your vision, establish a vision for your life, take some time, carve that out. Then I've got something in the book which I talk about called the integrated life layout, which is pulling that vision down into everything from your business to passions to your community to financial success. So there's 7 different areas that you think about, and the most magical thing happens. Once you've done this work, you are no longer pretending to be anything other than who and what you are. And so when you step into any room, no matter who is in that room, you show up wholly and completely as yourself. And I think that is the base of authentic power. And it happens that amplification happens, which I think is akin to like a light switch going off, or you're just vibrating at a higher level because you have designed a life that is, to your earlier point, a complete carbon copy of who you are.
And I love that because I think often we're trying to be an editor of our life instead of being the author of our life. And so I think you hit that. As entrepreneurs, we put an immense amount of pressure on ourselves, mentally, physically, emotionally. And I think that goes beyond entrepreneurs. But while we try to get it all done as quickly as possible, this is not always the best approach. So you have a framing chapter where you introduce the idea of the 60s. Talk to us a little bit about what the 60s are and how they can stack up to build habits that can make you more successful, despite, I think, it being a little bit counterintuitive.
Yeah, so when you want to achieve a goal, think 60. New habits are formed actually in 66-day increments, but 60 is good enough, it's memorable. And so anytime you want to achieve a goal, put that goal on the board. It's going to take you 60 days to accomplish it. And the best way to do that is to break it down into component parts. So the first is a 60-minute prime every morning. I like to do sweat, so move your body in some way. It doesn't have to be really tough. Silence, get quiet, get still with yourself. And sustenance, which is eating well, eating clean, whatever that means to you. And then throughout the day, because life is going to come at you, right? And a reactive life is a horribly painful life. You take 60-minute pauses. And I'd love to hear whenever anyone does this, but you just take it into your body, you decide if it feels really good to you, hot, warm, or cold, and it's not something you want to do. And by breaking things out, 60, 60, 60, I find it's really successful for being able to, see something very different on the other side of that time horizon.
And I tried the 60 habit yesterday, and I broke it today. But I liked how you said you can get back on it anytime.
That's fine. Yeah, you fall off the horse, you get back on.
Thank you for that. This is our last question, so if anyone has questions, feel free to, I will ask for them after this. You have mentored a lot of women, from corporate executives to aspiring entrepreneurs to founders that are feeling stuck. And they may ask you for advice on what they should build, how they should find their purpose, or what they should do differently. And what do you say?
The main piece of advice, and I've spoken to so many women who felt this way too. I think you spend many decades of your life, and this is true for anyone, whether you're an entrepreneur, you work in corporate, man, woman, doesn't matter, trying to become something else. Trying to be what you think it should be expected of you. And so the most important piece is it's really an unlearning. It's a letting go. It's getting back to your truth, the authenticity of who and what you are. And I think the more that we can all do that, as uncomfortable as it is, the better our world will be, because we are all deeply unique, deeply special, and there's not one other person like you on this planet, literally. So to rob us of your natural gifts is not something you should do.
Thank you, Kathleen. Does anyone have any questions? If not,
She's prepared.
okay, I'm sorry.
What's your favorite part of the day?
My favorite part of the day would be when I'm meditating. It would just be, being really quiet and being able to kind of listen to myself and where I want to go without being able to drown out the noise. I think we live in such a noisy world right now, and it's so easy to be overwhelmed by that. So I think silence is actually one of the greatest luxuries in the world. Yes?
What is your next challenge?
Ooh, good question. My next challenge will be learning to I really want to become a world-class public speaker. And people say that public speaking, most people fear dying over public speaking. I'm talking loud, like I want big crowds, I want to sit down with Oprah. I want to do really big things in the public speaking arena. So I'm going to get trained up on that, and I'm excited about it.
Oh, yes. Do you want to go first?
What advice do you have? Like, money usually is a barrier for people pursuing their passion or entrepreneurs to scale. Like, what advice do you have around money?
Cash money on the 99s. Money's really important. Most businesses are starting with less than $3,000 in personal savings, so it's very real. And I think the most important piece, I started my business, I made the mistake of hiring all full-time employees out of the gate, 401ks, big bonuses, and it's not realistic because you don't you don't necessarily have that income coming in. And so I think you need to be realistic for where you are, start lean and mean. Usually that's you plus some freelancers, you know, if you're lucky. I know that's not your case, but just in general. And the other piece is the importance of the negotiation. So someone who I was interviewing, June Diane Raphael, who's this amazing actress on Grace and Frankie, Frankie and Grace. At any rate, she was fundraising at the time, and she said, in the midst of a negotiation, you make your ask, then you pick up a pen, you do whatever you need to do to let that ask hang uncomfortably in the air, and it will be wildly uncomfortable. And you're gonna wanna fill the space, but you just have to let it hang, because more often than not, someone's gonna say, okay, we accept your number, we accept, and you can leave a negotiation, you can leave a room with a lot more money than you had when you walked in if you just stand firm and strong in that. So I think the negotiation is like the most important financial tool. Spending, saving, finding that flow, important to see yourself as someone who could be wealthy. Also as a woman, I think we have a strange, uncomfortable relationship with that, and we always think that should come from a partner, no matter what form of partner that is. But the negotiation is key. Yes.
What did you learn about yourself through the process of writing a book?
I have ADD. To be shackled, and I did a lot of research on what you have to do to be a writer, to be shackled to a desk. It was akin to like a very strong form of torture. And so I learned that I don't have a lot of patience, and that was something or discipline, and I really had to cultivate that in myself. There's this incredible book, The War of Art, which is, it's funny when you're writing, everything feels attractive. You want to do your laundry, you want to go grocery shopping, you know, like anything looks better than kind of hitting the page. So I think that's what I found, is that when push comes to shove, we can cultivate things that we don't necessarily have in ourselves when the mission feels important enough.
Yes.
So speaking from personal experience and also from people you've mentored, what is the single biggest obstacle for people pursuing their dreams? And secondly, can you share one powerful story of someone you've mentored who actually took that leap and is now doing what they love to do?
50% of women give up on their dreams. It's a really sad statistic. And the number one feeling on people's deathbeds, male or female, or, you know, is I wish I had lived a life that was true to me, not the one people expected of me. And so that is haunting. It's really haunting. But I think when it comes to dreaming, you know, the price of a dream is free. That's why I just love it. You can imagine something as large as you want it to be. You can be completely unrealistic. It can be to the 10th exponent and no one knows but you. It's this kind of private thing that you can have for yourself. I'm most encouraged by the stories of women who did not come from anyone entrepreneurial in their family, did not come from a family of risk takers, and maybe are first generation to do this and have just blown the doors off of what they're creating. Like that to me is really cool. That's why I love women's stories.
No. So I want to leave everyone with what you wrote on page 1, your dedication page, because it was amazing and it hit hard. You write, "This book is for every woman who is done and ready. You reach a point where you are just done screwing around, done playing small, done pretending, with yourself, with others, just done. When the new you needs to lovingly take the hand of the old you and say, thank you, but your service here are no longer required. You may rest now. There is but one precious life, and time she is fleeting. I have big, beautiful, brave things to build." It's a little bit emotional. But I just want to say thank you for putting that out there. Thank you for doing that dedication. And thank you for this book. It's 275 pages of solid gold. I've enjoyed reading it and just grateful for what I've seen you build and what you will continue to build.
Thank you, Andrea. And I just want to close this by saying thank you to the Hugo Boss team, the bosses of the Boss team, Jane, Josh, and Fico, and Lisa. They are not only clients, but just unbelievable supporters of women. And they have an incredible brand campaign. Bosses aren't born, they're made. It's all about really stepping into your power, becoming your own boss, whatever that means to you. And I just love everything about the brand. I think, there's so much that you can learn and discover by also just feeling really, really good. So, and I would say that, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Their suits are incredible. You could run a marathon in them. They are so buttery, they're so soft, they're so good. The team is so good. But I hope you will kind of check out the store. We're going to do a little bit of shopping, which will be fun. If you don't want to try on clothes in front of a million people, go to hugoboss.com too. They've got great stuff there. There's 15% off for anyone who wants it. There will be some embroidery over there. Boss were kind enough to gift my book to all of you, so thank you guys again for that. And just have some fun, build a new look. They're great stylists here if you're interested. And introduce yourself. This is my challenge to you, to 2 new people that you don't know. You can blame me, but I hope you leave meeting some new friends at the end of this.
Yes, and that there is that 15% rate in the book. So thank you again, Kathleen, for Build Like a Woman, and have a good night.
Thank you all for coming.